This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer, upgrading an existing one, or buying a finished system, Newegg has everything you need to do that. Processors, motherboards, and RAM and power supplies, and then also, closed products like laptops and computer monitors and things like that. And they've got daily deals right now. They've got an Acer HD gaming monitor with 1 millisecond refresh and AMD FreeSync for $119, which is a pretty good deal. And to find out all of the daily deals that are available and to see all of the products that they offer, you can go to piltchpoint.live/Newegg. All right. So we've had talked on one topic a number of times since the beginning of the year. We're going to break that cycle tonight, right, Avram?
Yes, we're not going to talk about Raspberry Pi. But for those of you who feel really who really miss it, let's keep in mind that the 14th is coming up, and that's Pi Day. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about a new technology that was just announced this week. We will not be seeing it for quite a while, but it is something that's very interesting. USB 4. Yes, we are getting to USB 4 now, everyone. For those unaware, we're still the current standard. This current level of USB that is the standard, and none of them have come out yet, is USB 3.2. And the real advancement in USB 3.2 is that you can get USB 3.2 that is dual channel and gives you 20 gigabit per second. Devices like that we should see in 2019. USB 4, however, the USB Promoter Group, which is the non-profit group that comes out with the USB standard, they are talking about mid-year they're going to release the spec, and then companies that want to make devices based on USB 4, they want to make controllers, they want to make peripherals, they want to make docks, they will have the spec, and you got to figure it's going to take them a good year or more after that, 12 to 18 months maybe, to come out with products. So the best case scenario, I think, is you would see products mid to end of 2020. But even then, my guess is it's going to be few and far between for a while. I mean, look how long it took for USB Type-C to become as popular as it is, and still not as popular as it should be. But good news is we do have a lot to look forward to, and we got a fair amount of information. I got, once this was announced last week, I got on the phone with Brad Saunders, who's the CEO of the USB Promoter Group, talked to him for a while about what their thinking is and what the real benefits of USB 4 are going to be. So one thing to know about USB 4 is that they've decided to spell it with creative spelling. I, however, will not give in to this creative spelling. They've decided to spell it USB 4 without a space between the B and the 4.
Of course.
Whereas every other USB is, like a version number. And the reason that they're doing that is because they don't want people to get caught up in the version numbers. They don't want it to be 4.0. They don't want it to later come out with a 4.1. They want to kind of steer the message toward like this, users don't have to think about what version they're getting. Now, we'll see how that pans out in real life. What they told me is they still haven't come up with their marketing strategy yet. So USB 4 might not actually be the full marketing name. It might be something like, super duper speed USB, because right now USB 3 is super speed USB. So USB 3 and 3.1 and 3.2 are considered super speed USB. And that is what they would prefer people call USB 3. But we know that in real life, most people don't call it that. So what are the benefits?
They could call it ultra speed because 4K is ultra HD.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although at work we were saying the best name would be ludicrous speed. Um,
Because
anyway,
then they could do the opposite of what who was it? Was it Lenovo had T-Pain as their spokesperson, or Toshiba? Toshiba had T-Pain as their spokesperson. They could have Ludacris as the spokesperson for USB4.
yeah, ludicrous speed. So the main benefits that you will get from USB 4 is, first of all, it can do up to 40 gigabit per second maximum speed.
Nice.
So that makes it as fast as Thunderbolt 3, which is kind of the fastest thing around these days. Means it's going to be good for really high speed things like using an external GPU, which I think, external GPUs are, while sometimes some of the models are problematic, are really, really useful. If you've got an Ultrabook, really lightweight notebook, and it's got Thunderbolt 3 on it, you can take that, attach it to something with like a fairly powerful AMD or NVIDIA desktop card, and you can play games over that connection. So
Or render video.
There's just so much cool stuff you can do. Of course, also with 40 gigabit per second, you could attach a really, really fast external SSD.
Yeah.
And be able to keep up with it. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to actually be compatible with Thunderbolt 3 devices. Possibly. I should caveat that. If you saw the headlines when this came out last Monday, it was, it's compatible with Thunderbolt 3. Well, sort of. The manufacturers will have the option to make their USB 4 ports compatible with Thunderbolt 3, not the requirement to do so. So there we have something where I think, unfortunately, could lead to some confusion.
Yeah.
Because, when you're getting this, do you know whether you're getting the one that is Thunderbolt 3 compatible?
Right.
Presumably, they will probably want to put a Thunderbolt logo on it or something. In which case, then it will have to go through certification with Intel, just like Thunderbolt does now. So I don't know. Is that going to make it just as onerous as making your own Thunderbolt 3 port? I don't know. The other thing that it does, which is something that I believe Thunderbolt 3 does also, is it dynamically splits resources between video and data. So one thing you can do with USB 4 is you could send both data and say a HDMI or DisplayLink video signal over the same wire. And if the display port signal for your monitor only needs like 20% of the bandwidth, it'll give the other 80% of the bandwidth to that external SSD you're copying something to that's linked through the same hub. But this is an improvement over what we have today, because today we have something called USB alternative mode. And USB alternative mode, yes, you can output to a DisplayPort monitor or an HDMI monitor from a USB Type-C cable, but it doesn't do a good job of dynamically allocating those resources. If it's going over DisplayPort, according to what I heard from USB promoter group, is DisplayPort is a 50-50 split of data versus video. If you have HDMI, you can only use HDMI in alternate mode. You can't use both HDMI and data at the same time. So this is going to allow the port to be really smart and decide how much allocation to give to data transfer and how much to video.
Nice.
Other things to know about this is that it is going to use USB Type-C ports only. Forget about using a Type A port or a Micro B or something. Okay. It's going to come in 3 speeds, 10, 20, and 40. And it's, of course, going to be backward compatible with older devices like USB is famous for. So if you've got an old hard drive and you can use an adapter, you can plug it to USB 4 and you can get a connection and it will work at the lowest common speed between the new port and the old one. But keep in mind, this probably isn't going to come for quite some time. And it is also going to be more expensive for manufacturers to include than current USB 3.1, 3.2. So, we expect that the first devices to have it will be premium devices.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable. Obviously, anytime new technology comes about, especially when we're talking new ports, it almost never comes to the consumer grade, the standard grade product. It usually starts at the upper grade.
But the really good news about this is that it kind of democratizes something that Thunderbolt 3 has been doing for a while, which is providing a really fast connection that's 40 gigabit per second. So now you could totally see, for example, there's no AMD powered system that has Thunderbolt in it. I don't know if it's physically impossible, or you could do it with an add-on chip, but you don't find AMD systems with Thunderbolt in them. In fact, you find very few desktops that have Thunderbolt 3 in them, even Intel ones. So this hopefully is a bit cheaper than implementing Thunderbolt. It's more platform agnostic, so like an AMD will feel comfortable, supporting it, and so we'll see more better adoption than we see with Thunderbolt, because it's not tied to one company, to one platform in Intel.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, for both Intel and AMD, it would probably feel a little strange to have an AMD processor and then have an Intel powered port on it. So for the manufacturers to get involved in that, I can see why there's not AMD powered machines with Thunderbolt in them. But this brings the speed and the capability to the general case, which is good. So you said we might start to see these late next year?
Yeah. So don't hold your breath, but it is interesting to know, right?
Yeah.
So something to keep an eye out for. I certainly wouldn't wait to delay any purchases to wait for this.
That's what I was just going to say. This falls into your category of don't wait for it. If you need a laptop, just do it.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you're not going to see laptops with this for a very long time. And even when you do, this peripheral support will not be... Well, I guess if they support Thunderbolt 3, then at least you're getting Thunderbolt 3. But if you want that kind of connectivity today, you can get that 40 gigabit per second if you buy a laptop that has Thunderbolt 3 in it. So, I don't think, it's going to be cool for the industry over time to watch it be adopted, which I hope it will be. But it's not going to have a great immediate impact on the users.
Yeah, and it'll be, I think in particular, like for me, the smart switching capability versus, like, it's like the old days, right? The difference between a USB hub and a USB switch. Or the difference between an Ethernet hub and an Ethernet switch. A hub gave you 50-50 versus a switch that was able to smart allocate. And so we're talking about the actual video versus data connection being smart allocation, which I love. So you've got information on this, right?
Yes. So visit tomshardware.com and you can see our USB4 Everything You Need to Know article, which I wrote.
Very cool. And I will point out, I said it to you off air, and I'll say it again now. I loved the social media post I saw earlier that said, we don't know everything, but here's 2,000 words about what we do know.
Yes, I'll give credit to our social media guy, Kenneth, who is just a great guy. And he asked me, he said, how many words is this? So I counted. It was like 1,990 something. He's like, let's say 2,000.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I saw that and I laughed. I'm like, that's a good share right there. That's a win. Well, as always, Avram, thank you for bringing us information on the insides of the computers.